I think the way we process love sometimes leaves us thinking of love as being very fragile. When it's good, it's great, but there's always the threat of breakups, distance, unmet expectations, and that creates this like angst or nervousness. Like if love does not produce very specific results, then it needs to be avoided, despised, it's going to be painful. And none of that has to be true once we understand that your love belongs to you. So welcome back to the Humaning Well podcast. I'm Amber Cabral. This is episode 3 in our February capsule on love and intimacy. And we're talking about love as an experience, not a contract, right? Like this isn't marriage, but about love is something that you feel in your body and that you get to choose to share or not. It still belongs to you, regardless of how close or far someone is. When connection feels profound, sometimes what happens is we misattribute the source of that feeling to the person that we have love for. We assume that they created it, that they're the reason we have the feeling, that they unlocked something in us, that they are the reason that we feel alive or open or deeply connected. But that's not entirely true. What's usually happening is that we became willing, we softened, we opened, we allowed intimacy in a way we hadn't before. And because that experience felt rare or surprising, we assigned ownership of it to the person that we were with, the person that we love. But you did it. You generated the openness. You allowed the intimacy, you shared and created the experience of love, even with someone else contributing to it. You were doing it. It wasn't being done just to you. It wasn't by yourself, right? How were you doing it? By being intentional with your care and your communication, by showing vulnerability, by allowing someone to see you, by participating in opportunities for someone to experience parts of you that maybe not everyone sees. You were there. This is really important and it matters a lot because what I've found is that when we decide to end something with someone, whether that's friendship or romantic or otherwise, it's hurtful and we can make rash decisions about not loving someone again. I have a very good friend who is on his second marriage. And I remember when he got divorced, he was like, I'm never doing that again. I am never going to love like that. I am never going to make that kind of commitment. I am never participating in something like that. And of course, now he's remarried and very happily so. And like, he's looking back at himself like, oh my gosh, it's so different. I just don't think we realize that when we attribute parts of ourselves, which we're participating in the love, okay? When we attribute parts of ourselves to someone else, we misplace the agency that we actually have. We discard the part that we actually play in love. The parts of you that you loved about you with that person, they still exist. And you get to keep them. You don't have to possess a person to love them. The love can exist even if the relationship has to evolve. I learned this the hard way many years ago, but love is something that we generate and share just as others do the same with us. And when I was in my 20s, I met a man. I fell deeply in love with him, but I knew relatively soon that we were not going to be together. All right. Amazing man. We just wanted different things in life. The love was real. It was mutual. And still, it was not with someone that I could build a life with. And I spent a good year after I realized that we could never be more trying to convince myself to stop loving him. It was hell. I woke up with heartache every single day. Okay. It was miserable. But one day I realized that I was literally torturing myself because the love lived in me. And once I understood that like it was my love that I was trying to get rid of, that I didn't need to harden it or poison it to just move on, changed everything. Loving somebody doesn't require that you own them. It doesn't even require proximity. We love when it works that way, right? It's the ideal. It's what the fairy tale movies are about. It's the thing that we're sold, when we're kids, right? But like when you love somebody, sometimes it's not going to come that way. Sometimes it's not going to stay that way. And loving them doesn't even require access to them. You can love somebody without staying with them. You can love somebody without returning. You can love someone without letting that love dictate your choices. My love belongs to me. I elect to share it. But the person I love doesn't have to be with me. They don't have to be my friend. They don't even have to talk to me. For those of us who have complicated relationships with our parents, we kind of get this a little faster too, because it's like, I love this person, but like I can't be around them. I understand that they're my parent and that other folks get to have really close relationship because of that parental piece, but like I can't have that. Someone can leave me and I can still love them because my love belongs to me. I might have really liked sharing it with that person, but I should not assume that that enjoyment means that I have to have that person in my life in the exact same way all the time, particularly if it turns out that they are not a benefit for me. If it in fact turns out that they are a detriment to me. We do not have to collapse when love that we have for someone doesn't become what we hoped. It doesn't mean that the love wasn't real. And when it doesn't work out, erasing, shaming, rushing love away, those things are not going to stop the heartache as much as we hope it will. The behavior that I've found that works the best is kind of counterintuitive, but it has been to deepen my love of self through the end of a connection, right? So like intentionally making sure that I'm loving myself well while I am hurting, intentionally making sure that I am loving myself well while I am navigating the evolution of a relationship. So what does it look like if I take the love that I have for that person and I turn it inward onto myself? What happens when I tap in on the parts of me that being around that person surfaced instead of waiting on someone else to pull them out of me? What if I do it? What if I tap into that? Because now I know. Now I know what felt good about us together, our love. And I still get to have access to that. What if I treat me as good as they used to, or how I wish they treated me? What if I love me as hard as my heartache is telling me that I loved them? There are people that I have no intention of engaging with again for very valid reasons. And still, I don't need to erase my capacity to love them. I stop sharing that love with them because it's unhealthy or it's unfair or it's unsafe for me. But the feeling may or may not go away. Understanding that love that I have given belongs to me allows me to hold boundaries, make clean decisions, stay open to future love without having to feel like I'm being reckless. When we don't claim ownership of the part that we play in a love dynamic, what happens is our inner experience causes us to stay longer than we should in the achy part. Okay. We tolerate more than we should because we think we can't get it anywhere else. All right. We start to confuse intensity with alignment. We start to fear losing access if someone leaves, but it's still love and it's still there and it's still available to you. You don't have to choose between openness and discernment. You can have both. It starts by not outsourcing your feelings. It starts by not saying, I can only have love if it is in this specific model. So I have a few reflection questions for this episode about love. And I know this is a little bit of an esoteric concept, which I think love sometimes is esoteric anyway. But I wanted to give you some things to think about because I was having this conversation with my friend and she was just like, I hate that I loved him. And I'm like, why? You know what love feels like, right? And so I'm going to give you some reflection questions in the event that you are currently or have in the past needed to navigate just the complexity that happens when, love doesn't turn out to be what we hoped it would be in terms of how you are engaging with someone in relationship. So the first question is, where have I confused loving someone with needing to keep them? Because especially American culture, honey, we love to possess people. Okay. You get to love people and they get to still not meet your expectations and move on with their lives in ways that you may not necessarily agree with. Okay. So where have I confused loving someone with needing to keep them? Okay. Second question, have I ever stayed longer because I believed that love would disappear if I left? Meaning I won't get to feel this ever again. All right. And that's not true. Okay. So I want to encourage you, not to do that. But have you ever done that because you thought that? And what can we do to adjust that perspective? What would I change if I trusted that love is something that I generate, not something I am granted? It's not just something that's handed to you. It's something that also comes from you. How might your relationships shift if you stopped outsourcing ownership of your feelings? Oh my God, I will never feel this way about someone again now that this person's gone. Eat those words, all right? That's not true. Love doesn't become a problem just because it ends. What makes it painful is when we believe that we've lost access to something essential in ourselves. When you understand that your love belongs to you, you can let love be real, it can work out or not, and you can still make clear choices about your life. You can still feel deeply, it could still hurt or be disappointing, and you don't have to lose yourself. You can stay open without fearing that you're being reckless. You don't have to try to destroy yourself trying to recover from heartache, okay? And I'm not saying that none of this hurts. It does. It's disappointing. But you can definitely avoid the self-destruction that many of us have gone through when love doesn't hold things together anymore. Love is meant to be shared, but your love belongs to you. And when you stop outsourcing ownership of your feelings, you move through relationships with more clarity, more choice, and most importantly, more self-respect. So that's today's episode on love. We've got one more in this capsule. Forgive my voice. I am just recovering from the flu. So hopefully y'all are out here staying well and fever free. And I'll see you next week.